Welcome to Muskie Sports Blast Inside the Huddle, your number one source for all the latest news on Muskingum athletics. Joining me today to preview the 2011 softball season, Muskingum head coach Kari Hoying. Coach, to start off with, being the successor to the late legendary coach down in Newberry, does that add any extra pressure to you in your first season?
I don't really think it adds any extra pressure. I think anytime you take the field for your first time as a head coach, you have the pressure of just, how are you going to be out of the chute? And I think that's where my pressure comes from. It's more internally than externally. Luckily enough, I've got great backing from the Muskingum community and from the not only here at Muskingum but also in New Concord, and my girls support me, and I think that's the biggest support. So the pressure really isn't there because of Coach Newberry's passing and me filling her shoes. It's more internally and just wanting to succeed on the field.
Also a new staff to surround yourself with. New assistant coach Amanda Bradbury, a player who played Division I at Iowa State. You also added Elena Comfort, one of the most dominant pitchers in Ohio high school softball history. How has the new staff gelled together?
It's gelled very, very well. Amanda brings us a lot of knowledge in hitting, as well as she was a middle infielder at Iowa State, so she's been able to work with our shortstops and our second baseman, and have really, she's just brought a wealth of knowledge. As young as she is, she's come right in and asked and done everything that I've asked her to do. She's been tremendous. I can see it in our girls already, just the confidence in their hitting. They like her. They like having her around. She's a great personality. She brings a lot to our program. And then with Elena, Coach Comfort, she obviously has the knowledge in pitching and has the knowledge in other areas of the game as well. And she's able to be at our practices and be at our games. She's going to travel to Florida with us, and that's something that we haven't had in the last 4 or 5 years. So that's something that both I and the girls are looking forward to.
Florida now less than a week away before you open the season. When you look at the field players on this team, you return a wealth of talent, all conference caliber, all the way around the diamond. But it all starts at first base. Two-time All-American Mary Margaret Boda. Can you talk about Boda?
Boda is, she's had a couple breakout seasons, but I really look for her to lead in more than one way this year, on and off the field. But on the field, obviously her bat is tremendous, her defense is tremendous. She went last year without committing a single error at first base. And what else could you ask for out of a senior? And her leadership, she knows how to lead by example. I just told her the other day that when she's in a drill, the drill elevates because of her execution. She wants to be there. She knows how to make the big plays in the big moments, and she's probably going to be our go-to player.
Behind the plate, junior catcher Allie Mazie, also all-conference catcher behind the plate, also produces runs for you.
I think with Mazie, she's going to have a season that we've been waiting for her to have. Last year, as a sophomore, I think she finally got that comfort that you need before you can really play to your full potential. And I think that this year she's a junior captain for us, and I think she's really stepped up in many ways, and we're looking for big things out of her.
In the center of the diamond, sophomore April Patterson had an injury-shortened season last year, but before the injury was really showing some great flashes, making some great plays out there. What do you expect this year?
I think the injury last year helped April become more all-around. I think also just having those, the experience that she did as a freshman under her belt will help her mature and just settle in as an infield leader. You look at your shortstop a lot of time to be able to make the routine plays and the great plays in the hole, and I think that she can do that and will do that. Her bat, I think, was her, I wouldn't say weak point. She had a pretty solid batting average, but it's come a long way from last year, and I think that has a lot to do with confidence in herself. She doesn't have to, she doesn't have those freshman jitters, those first-year jitters. She's calmed down. She's playing her game right now.
In the outfield, returning 3 players out there: Chelsea Connor, Jendi Wepler, and Kristen Hagan. A lot of experience in the outfield.
Yeah, our outfield's pretty solid, which is nice to know, and they can all hit, which is a plus. You can't really play outfielders who can't hit, and I'm a firm believer in that. And the communication and the understanding of their positions is pretty much even keel all the way across the outfield, left field, center, and right, and they gel well together. It's tough when you have an outfield who they don't know their range, or they don't know their speed, or they don't know their arm, but these 3 really know how to get it done when they're next to each other out there.
A couple positions we didn't talk about, 2 very important positions in softball: second base and third base. What can the fans expect to see at those positions this year?
Third base, I'm actually looking at Campbell Query. She's a junior. She was our backup catcher for these past 2 years, and her instinct is something that a third baseman needs. We really haven't had that instinct since Heather Fields, graduated graduated back in 2008. Chloe Maloney did a good job at third base, in these last 2 seasons. But Campbell she's passionate about the game, and her passion kind of just shows through the way that she handles herself, through how she fields, how she throws, how she maintains and holds down the position. Another person at third base that we'll be looking at is freshman Courtney Moyer from Granville, a kid who is such a great athlete, who has high potential, and is just willing to do whatever she needs to do to get into that starting lineup.
What about second base? Always a key position for softball.
Second base, with the way that our pitchers are throwing, it is going to be a crucial spot this year. It might be Jendi Wepler. She was a middle infielder in high school, and she played some center last year because of her range and what she was able to bring to us. But she might be at second base some this year. Courtney Allen from Loveland, Ohio. She's a first-year player. Might be out there. Jessie Little from Fairborn. That's the one position I keep telling these girls, rise up, because it's right there waiting on them. So that's probably going to be more of a game day decision on that position.
That takes us to probably the most important aspect of softball, in the center of the diamond for the pitching staff here. Last year's pitching returns this year again. It's Ashley Price, who also had a breakout year at the plate, a dual threat for the Muskies, which we haven't had in a while around here. Talk about Ashley Price and what you expect this year.
I expect a little bit more improvement from Ashley Price. I think she changed her pitching motion and mechanics in these last 2 years, and Coach Comfort has really worked on her getting back to the Ashley Price, the Ashley Price that we recruited in high school. The good thing about Ash is she's a confident player, both offensively and defensively, so she's going to go in every day and know what she has to do. She's going to know what pitches are working, what pitches she needs to throw, in what situations. She's a kid that wants it, and she's got personal goals, but more importantly, her goals are team goals right now, and it does. It starts with the pitcher.
When Ashley's pitching, will she also be hitting?
Ashley will also be hitting for us, unless for some reason she gets in a funk. But just with working with her for the past 2 seasons, she can hit, and we can't hide a bat like that on the bench. So she will be hitting when she's pitching.
Krista Diebler also returns. Last year she led the team in ERA and ended the year with perhaps one of the best games ever pitched here at Muskingum in a win against Ohio Northern at Ohio Northern. What kind of expectations do you have for Diebler this year?
I think Deebs is really, just here lately, in the last couple of weeks, I think, picked up her overall intensity. She's understanding how crucial her spot is. She's showing a little bit of, body language and understanding what she needs to get done. I've seen an increase in her speed and in her movement. And she's another one who, last year, that win versus Ohio Northern gave her the confidence that she needs just to go right into this season with. She's a hard worker.
Morgan Yaki, a player that many people aren't very familiar with because of injury, but someone who's making an impact right now on this team.
Yeah, Morgan Yaki, sophomore from North Carolina. She keeps the ball low. She's got a pretty good head on her shoulder. I think she hasn't had any time in varsity games. She played JV last year, and I think she's one of those that when we talked to him at the end of last season, we said, Morgan, this opportunity is yours if you want to take it. And she went home and she's worked, and she's probably one of the hardest workers on our team physically, and hopefully that transitions onto the field both physically and mentally.